with you. And I know that it hurts sometimes, but I miss you. And I know that it's on your mind, and it's on your mind when I kiss you. But I wanna do whatever you wanna do. I wanna do whatever you wanna do. If you wanted to, girl, we could cross that line. No, we've been friends, enough only knows broken hearts. Yeah, that's what you said, girl, let me change your mind. These feelings are hard to find. Feelings are hard to find. Play the chorus. My way, but I'm far away, but I'll keep running just to find a way to you till then. I've been running from it, tired of running from it, scared of feeling something else, like I'm trying to get up out of this hole. I try
The
to
Babu is here.
Hello,
Yeah, he's already here.
yeah, I'm here already. Hello, everyone. We are about to start this session. We will also have the live streaming. Waalaikumsalam. Okay, I think we can start, Ibu.
Yes,
Shall we?
yes, of course.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Good afternoon, of
wabarakatuh.
course, Indonesia time. Yeah, it's afternoon here. May peace be upon you. His Excellency, the Head of Educational Psychology Study Program Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Professor Dr. Haj Shihabuddin MPD, and the Honorable Director of Directorate of International Affairs Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Bapak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim, PhD. Good afternoon, Bapak. And the Head of Study Program, Educational Psychology Study Program, Ibu Tina Hayati Dahlan. Good afternoon, Bu Tina.
Good afternoon.
It's an honor for me, Utinantika, to host you in this summer school program. First of all, let us praise and thank God for the gift and grace as we can gather today, even though we are now still in a global pandemic situation and have to conduct the class by distance. Hopefully, it won't decrease the valuable insights we can gather after the program. Amin. And before we proceed the main program, I would like to inform several highlights here. First, for all participants, please use virtual background provided from the committee, and please rename your username with name underscore country or name underscore Psychopen student or Psychopen alumni. Second, all participants will get a certificate if they attend all lecturing. Third, in the end of lecturing, there will be final project or completion. And the last, all participants need to fill the attendance list for each lecturing. So don't forget to always list your name on the attendance list, everyone. And okay, also here with us, we have Associate Professor, Professor Roda Myra Gersis Bascal. Hello, Professor.
Baksa.
And she will be delivering an interesting topic today for reading for social and emotional learning. I believe everyone already known her, yeah, the inspiring lecture we have today, but I would like to share several highlights here. Professor Myra is Assistant Dean for Research and Graduate Studies for the College of Educational at the United Arab Emirates University. She also serves as Associate Professor with the Department of Special Education. She has a vibrant website on children's literature and young adult fiction, where she shares her social and emotional learning bookshelf consisting of multicultural and international picture books from all over the world. Wow, so inspiring, yeah, Professor Myra. And hello, Professor, would you say something in order to check whether all participants can hear our voice?
Of course. Can you hear me well, everyone? My voice
Please
comes through?
thumbs up, or if you have
Yes.
some problems, you can chat.
Yeah. So I think everyone is able to hear me well.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Wonderful.
great.
Thank you.
Okay, so without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started. Please welcome Professor Myra. Time is yours.
I'm sorry. Teh Uti.
Okay, sorry.
Can we start
Sorry.
with remarks first?
Sorry,
I'm sorry,
everyone will
Myra.
be waiting for the main program, but because we really wait for the main agenda.
I'm sorry, Pak Abu.
For that, only Pak Abdul ya Bu ya. But no, Prof.
No,
Shihab,
me first. Yeah,
uh,
me first. Okay, thank you.
Prof. Shihabuddin. So please, Ibu Tina, to open this session by opening remarks. Please welcome.
Okay, thank you, Uti. Good morning and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to have you here in Zoom meeting today. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you to each of you for joining the virtual event today. It is great pleasure to welcome all of you to our event, International Virtual Course 2021, with its theme, Applied Educational Psychology. My name is Tinayati Dahlan. It is such an honor for me to speak on behalf of the organizer. The International Virtual Course 2021 is the first summer school program organized by Educational Psychology Program. The purpose of the event is to increase the visibility of UPI and department in the international arena and the recognition of UPI lecturers. The IVC has 3 agendas. Those are 7 courses virtual meetings, take-home tests, and project presentation on virtual meeting. The course provides a forum for all participants to discuss issues related to educational psychology in the globalized world. We are very pleased to welcome our guest lecturer, Assistant Professor Myra Garces Baksal, PhD, from College Education, United Arab Emirates University. Welcome, Myra. Welcome back, Myra. I mean, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Yeah, it is an honorable moment for our university to have your prestigious presence in the event. We are all truly inspired by your deeds. We would like to thank Director of Directorate of International Affairs of UPI, Pak Ahmad Bukhari Muslim PhD, for joining today's event and for accepting our proposal. Yeah, without your approval, we can carry on this event. Thank you, Pak Abu. Yeah, and we would like to thank Rector and Director of School of Postgraduate Studies of UPI for supporting and providing meaningful suggestions for organizing the IVC. And we would like to appreciate the organizing committee who have been working very hard and showing a good collaboration to make the IVC prepared and run well. And also all parties who have provided contribution in IVC. To be informed that the participants are 36 students from undergraduate, master, and doctorate degree, and 24 of them come from Malaysia, Gambia, Nigeria, India, Somalia, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Gambia, and Pakistan. And besides, we have the students and alumni of Educational Psychology Master Program of UPI joining the event. And the IVC will not be occurred without participation of the participants. So thank you for joining the event. We hope that those of you who attended the IVC found it interesting and fruitful and will find something to stimulate your ideas and your own practices in research in educational psychology. I enclose my welcoming speech. Enjoy your course, everyone. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Again, my apology, Ibu Tina. Actually,
It is
We already
okay.
used the same color, yeah, today.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, telepathy still works between us, Bu. Thank you,
Yes.
Buti.
Thank you. You're
And
welcome.
ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Director of Directorate of International Affairs Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, Ahmad Bukhari Muslim PhD. Pada Bapak Ahmad, time is yours.
Thank you, Uti. Can you hear me?
Yeah, sure. Loud and
Yes.
clear.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon in Indonesia and good morning in Africa, in Central Asia, a bit morning. And Honorable Dr. Tina Hayati Dahlan, the organizing committee of the International Virtual Course with the theme Applied Educational Psychology. And Honorable, one of the speakers, Associate Professor Myra Pascal from United Arab Emirates University. Welcome, Professor Myra. Nice to see you. And dear other speakers who may not be here today, I see from the list Dr. Emmanuel Hitipiu from Universitas Negeri Malang, and also Dr. Foni Domeati Hutagalung from University of Malaya in Malaysia, and Professor Sui Lin Goy from Windesheim University, the Netherlands. And of course, our speakers from University of Indonesia, Dr. Hani Yulindrasari and Dr. Tina Hayati Dahlan, of course, and also Dr. Anna Hafiana. First of all, apology from our rector who cannot make it here because this is in the weekend and also Sunday afternoon in Indonesia. But I believe that I think this is the best time that the committee has decided, because I think this is the best time when everyone is free from other schedule, but only this activity. So I think the timing is also very flexible and very relevant. For your information, Professor Maria Pascal, so this international virtual course from the Department of Psychology is one of our 15 summer courses in this year. And I think, Butina, I think you are the last to
Yeah.
organize this one.
Yeah.
But yes, I know this is end of October, so and then moving to November. I know that in European countries, in United States, maybe the summer is gone. But don't worry, Professor Baksal, because in Indonesia, we have summer the whole year almost. So at this moment, we still enjoy the sun, the sunshine and everything. So that's why don't worry, Butina, although this is summer program in November, but it's still applicable to Indonesia. So it is still
Yeah.
summer actually.
Yeah, agree.
Yes. So despite the pandemic, our university managed to, make it possible for us to invite our counterparts and partners from overseas despite the pandemic, despite the physical limitations. But we do understand that we can still organize the program virtually. So during this pandemic time, the second year of our pandemic time, we organized about 15 summer programs, which is more than we did last year, the first year of the pandemic, when we for the first time shifted from physical to virtual. We organized only 5 summer program, but this year we had 15 summer program. We do hope that, of course, the pandemic will go away soon. And I understand that, of course, virtual summer program is not as engaging as physical one. So we do hope that the pandemic will go away, and hopefully next year we can see and welcome Professor Myra Baksal to come physically to our university, to Bandung. For information, Bandung is one of a beautiful city. So I know maybe the temperature in Bandung is much colder than in the United Arab Emirates University, because last week we had also a webinar and the speaker is American, but he was in Dubai and he said it's very hot also in Dubai. So Butina, we need to welcome Professor Baksal next year when we have another physical or regular summer program.
Yeah.
So of this 15 summer program from different major, we started as early as July. We started with the Department of Chemistry Education, and then we moved to Geography, and then to Arts, and then to Early Childhood Education, and many other subjects. But of these topics and different subjects, we have one main topic, which is we want to show the uniqueness of Indonesia. So for instance, in chemistry, for example, we show how the ethnochemistry, how the ethnic chemical essence, chemical ingredient may be used and may be introduced to our international students, international audience. For example, the chemistry department took the topic of ethnochemistry. For example, how Indonesian use chemical substance in making batik or in making that's a very traditional weapon, keris, among Indonesian. And also, for example, the Department of Arts or Dance, for example, they introduces the Indonesian traditional dances, for example. Even last week, the Department of Sports Science Education, they also introduces gymnastic, but which is developed based on the traditional Indonesian games or exercise or sport. So, and I believe that also for this program, for this department, applied educational psychology, I believe that some of the topics will be based on the application of educational psychology from the perspective of Indonesia. So I'm happy to hear from Dr. Tina that this program will be participated by 36 participants, and 24 of them are foreigners coming from Malaysia, Gambia, Nigeria, India, Somalia, Sri Lanka, South Africa, Kenya, Ghana, Gambia, and Pakistan. So mostly from Central Asia, from Southeast Asia, from Malaysia, and also mostly from Africa. And I think the timing is also very relevant when we pick up afternoon time in Indonesia, which means morning in Africa, because we have how many hours difference? Uti, is it 5 or 6 hours with Africa? Yeah, but I know afternoon for Indonesia is good because it will be morning for people participant from Africa. We also have regular students from Africa. So at the moment we have students from Nigeria, from Ghana, from Sudan, from everywhere across African countries. And sometimes we need to negotiate with the lecturers if they want to have classes, please. The schedule should be in the afternoon, not in the morning. Because can you imagine morning time in Indonesia and what time is it in Ghana or in Nigeria? So we do hope that the participants will know more about not only Indonesia, but also know more about our university. But of course, we do hope that next year when the pandemic is going away, we can welcome all the participants warmly to come and visit our university, Universitas Pendidikan Indonesia, and also our beautiful city of Bandung. For your information, our university is one of leading university in Indonesia. We are one of 14 what we call in Indonesia as university with spatial autonomy. So we are only in Indonesia. We have only we have about 4,500 universities, and we are one of the 14 universities in Indonesia with spatial autonomy. And also in the world, we also rank in US World University Ranking by subject in education in the ranking 250 and 300. And yes, we are still struggling because the overall, the World University Ranking from US, we are not ranked yet, but we're working very hard. But in Asia US ranking, we are ranked in 501 to 550. And we also received a good news last month, I think it's in September, from Times Higher Education. University is ranked in Asia in 501 to 550, but in the world, we are ranked in 1,001 to 1,200. In Indonesia, we are the third the best in Indonesia, and in Southeast Asia, I think we are number 23rd in Southeast Asia. So we do hope that this summer program will be one of our program of internationalization. So we invite these participants from all different countries. So we do hope that the students will have time to come and visit our university physically when the pandemic is going away. So once again, I'd like to extend my appreciations to the speakers, presenter, Professor Myra Garces Paksal, and also organizing committee, Dr. Dina Haiti Dahlan, and also, yes, the committee, the MC, the Nantika, and all the organizing committee who works behind the screen, who work very hard and who have made this international virtual course organized by the Department of Psychology, the Faculty of Graduate School of University of Indonesia possible. So once again, enjoy your virtual programs, and we do hope that you will find many takeaways from this program. So as Dr. Tina mentioned, so on behalf of University of Indonesia, I would like to officially declare this international virtual course open. Thank you very much and have a good day. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi
warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for the remarks, Pak Ahmad Bukhari. Although we meet by distance, but we can still your enthusiasm, ya Pak ya. Still like the sun bright in November. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, before we proceed the main program, I would like to remind everyone, please use virtual background provided, because in the end we will have photo session together. And don't forget to rename your username with name underscore country or name underscore Psychopen student or Psychopen alumni. Without further ado, let's hear presentation from Professor Rhoda Myra Graces Pascal with the topic Reading for Social and Emotional Learning. Professor Myra, time's yours.
Hello everyone. Again, thank you so much for this invitation. And it's my pleasure to be back once again. Thank you to Professor Ahmad Bukhari, Professor Tina Dalan, and dear Uti Nantika for ably hosting this event. And we welcome all the international participants coming from all over. Such a privilege and such an honor to be with you all today. I have prepared an interactive presentation because, as Professor Ahmad was saying earlier, we do have certain limitations given the fact that we are in a pandemic. We're not in a face-to-face situation, but that should not preclude us from having an engaging and interactive kind of interaction amongst each other. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, maybe either through Zoom, but it's most especially through Mentimeter. I think you are able to see from the slide, and I will share it in the chat box as well. Let me just copy and paste. I'm using two computers. That is usually how I manage, so that I am able to interact fully with you while at the same time also making sure that the slides are running as it should be. Another possibility is for you to just go to menti.com and put in the code number. I have put it in the chat box. So I am now seeing whether people have joined us on Menti. Right now, there's only one person. joining us. So I'm expecting at least around 40 of you to join us through Mentimeter. So just click on that link, and I'm really hoping to hear from you as well as I talk about reading for social and emotional learning. So welcome to people coming from Nigeria, Gambia, Somalia, India, Kenya, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, South Africa. I'm sure I must have missed quite a number of other countries there, and Indonesia. It's now fall, technically fall here in the United Arab Emirates. While I would like to claim that we have summer the whole year round, I hope and pray that it does not happen here in the Middle East because it's extremely hot here in the Middle East. So we're very grateful that the weather has now turned a little bit and it's a little bit colder. So I can now see more people joining us through Menti. So awesome, great, wonderful. So I thought it would be good to also start. Let me just click on that. There you go. I would like to begin by getting to know each one of you and to find out whether you are a school teacher or leader. Professor Tina has mentioned to me, I think just yesterday, that there are also a few school leaders or principals with us, and that the students are not necessarily just postgraduate students, that there are a few who are undergraduate students. I'm sure some of you are also parents. There are a few lecturers, researchers, professors with us today. So I can see 8 people joining us now on Menti. 6 are students, 1 parent, 4 school teachers and leaders. I deliberately chose these GIFs because I can tell, given the pandemic, that most school teachers or principals or school leaders are probably extremely tired and falling asleep in front of their computers, in front of their devices. The university lecturer or professor is busy typing in front of the computer. The parent is very busy cooking and preparing meals for children who are also doing their online learning at home. While students, I think, are mostly pretty relaxed, just drinking coffee by their window and reading a book. Okay, so now we have 7, 8, 9, 10, around 14 participants on Menti. So hopefully there will be more joining us, especially a little bit later, because I think what Professor Tina wants is also to have you be engaged in this workshop, because it's meant to be interactive. It's meant to be a workshop type of talk. And definitely I would want to hear your voices. Okay, awesome. So now we have 15 participants on Menti, and I'm happy to see that there are more students joining us today. For those of you who have already attended last Friday's session, I hope that you don't mind hearing me again and seeing my face once again as I talk about one of the things that I feel very passionate about, which is reading for social and emotional learning. Great. Okay, so now moving forward, I thought that it would be good to give you an overview of who I am and why I do what I do. So this is part of what is known in qualitative research as personal and disciplinal reflexivity. I think the organizers have already mentioned that my area of specialization actually is in clinical psychology. So that is my PhD, that is my training, that is my background, which means that I was trained under a very positivist, very empiricist paradigm. However, I also have fallen in love with narratives, with storytelling, with qualitative research, which I feel is able to really surface the voices of respondents or participants in a research study. So that is basically who I am. Another thing that the organizers may have also failed to mention is that apart from being a clinical psychologist and a teacher educator for the past, I think, going on 13 years now, I am also a huge book nerd. I think you can tell it from my bookshelves behind me. So this is not a virtual background. It's an actual background that we have, and it's only a portion of the huge library that we are very privileged to own here, and we were able to bring everything from Singapore with us. So I spent 11 years at the National Institute of Education as a teacher educator. in Singapore, where I also straddled two academic groups. So I was with the Early Childhood and Special Needs Education academic group, but I was also teaching a few courses for educational psychology with the Psychological Studies academic group at that time. So I was also supervising psychologists in addition to supervising teachers as well. So I've always thought of ways of combining my passions together, teacher education, psychology, and reading. So how do I infuse everything together? So I'm very, very privileged that my previous institution, the NIE, the National Institute of Education in Singapore, gave me the space and the playground to come up with a course module, a course elective that is open to all our higher degree students, be they doing their master's degree or their PhD, on using multicultural children's books to promote social and emotional learning, which is exactly what we will be doing today. So that's actually a 13-week course. We meet for 3 hours each week, but what I have done today is to condense that 13-week program into just maybe an hour or so, like an hour and a half or so, to somehow engage you all and probably redefine the very notion of reading. So given my extensive background in children's literature, I think our host earlier, Uti Nantika, mentioned about my website, gatheringbooks.org, where I feature quite a number of international, multicultural, diverse picture books from around the world. That is why I don't sleep any longer. We have been running that website, I think, for the past 12 years or so. And I often provide book recommendations across a variety of themes. It could be bullying, interpersonal conflicts, those who are children who are in transition, those who are coming from homes that are violent, those who have experienced domestic violence, those who are grieving, those who have experienced loss. So I always try to provide book recommendations to teachers, psychologists, counselors, that would enable them to really reach their students and connect to them in a meaningful manner. So I thought, might as well develop a 13-week course module around it, because most teachers are somehow not that aware of all of these titles, book titles that are actually out there that they can use at their disposal, and how they can use it effectively to engage their young readers in school. So I came up with this course module. Now, it became very popular that I was requested by my student participants to develop another course module that taps into older readers. So I came up with this course module using multicultural, middle grade, young adult literature, and graphic novels to promote social and emotional learning. So had I known earlier that you're coming from all of these countries, I would have curated my book list with narratives coming from Somalia, from Nigeria, but I'm sure we will have plenty of opportunities to do that next year, right, Professor Tina? So definitely we will have more of those chances for me to share narratives, hopefully coming from your region as well. So the idea behind this course module is to use Paulo Freire. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this academic, and I consider myself a disciple of him. Let me just type it in the chat box. So he is known for his pedagogy of the oppressed, and his pedagogy of hope. I love reading, his thoughts about teaching and learning and how to really surface the voices of the marginalized. So his idea is to not just read the word, but to also read the world. Hence, multicultural picture books, which in this case, I am using interchangeably with the term diverse picture books. So one of the key feedback that we obtained from developing those two course electives, and I would usually have the maximum number of participants for each semester that I am offering those courses, around 30 or so. So very good to hear voices of babies, which suggests that we do have parents with us as part of our audience. So like I mentioned earlier, it became very successful. And one of the feedback that we received was that we need to introduce these course modules, not only to those who are taking their master's or their PhD, but to all in-service teachers, that they need to have very clear handles on how social and emotional learning competencies can be facilitated through reading. So I did come up with this, I think it's a 12-hour professional development training. It's a 24-hour, actually, 24-hour standalone professional learning course, which I unfortunately did not have the chance to really introduce anymore because I was invited to serve and to become a professor at the United Arab Emirates University. So I didn't have a chance to really implement this 24-hour standalone professional training course, which you may be interested in having as well. So what I also did as a teacher academic is to embed a research component throughout the development of these course modules, its implementation, and then I also documented the teachers' responses to the books that I would bring with me for each session that we have. Normally, I bring around 40 to 50 books in a suitcase. So I'm known as the book lady in Singapore. I bring around 40 to 50 books, and then I just provide the students an immersive time to really read the books after I provide them with an overview or the theoretical background of what that particular topic is going to be for that session. But the idea is to really have that firsthand immersive experience with the reading materials, because if you do not know exactly how powerful picture books can be, especially diverse, outstanding international picture books, then you may not have the enthusiasm or the motivation or the urge or the impetus to introduce that to your own students. But if you yourself experience it firsthand, that this is actually very, very powerful, then it inspires you to do the same with your own set of students. So that is my intention with the time that we have right now. So I won't just be lecturing, I won't just be talking, I will also be doing a read aloud. I will be asking for volunteers from the audience to help me read aloud, so I'm not just the voice that you are hearing. We'd love to hear from people from South Africa read aloud from the picture books that I have curated with me, so that again, you will have that firsthand experience. And I will give you space to come up with discussion activities, possible questions that you can ask students after you have introduced that reading material. Okay. Now, when I joined UAE University in 2019, before the pandemic, thankfully, I was asked to teach a PhD, a doctoral course on teaching learners with culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds. So when I taught that course, I think we run for around 14 weeks here in the UAE, very different from Singapore. I also embed it with international diverse picture books in order to resonate with culturally and linguistically diverse students. So the idea is really for young readers to be able to see themselves represented in the pages of the book that they're reading. And that can be a very, very powerful experience, reading experience with the students. And that is also part of culturally responsive pedagogies and practices. Now, I would also like to introduce everyone to the research team that I have had in both Singapore as well as the Middle East, because I will not be able to speak to you right now and share with you our research findings and most of the things that we have learned through years of devoting our time to children's literature, reading, and social and emotional learning and inclusive practices without this fabulous team behind me. So in Singapore, from 2015 to 2019, this has been my research team, and I'm proud to say that it's multidisciplinary and also multi-ethnic. We had a professor coming from the University of the Philippines. He's a theoretical linguist by profession. We had a children's literature expert joining us from the University of Canterbury from New Zealand. We had a colleague coming from the English Language and Literature Academic Group, a social linguist, Professor Rowani Tupas. I am a clinical psychologist by training who is teaching teachers. And we also have Madame Sarina Jit Kaur, who is right now, I believe, serving as a master teacher in Singapore and has been teaching in Singapore schools for the past 15 years now. And we have been welcomed by quite a number of international schools as well. This picture is taken from the Tanglin Trust School in Singapore, where the international school librarian curated a list of picture books that we can use to teach social and emotional learning competencies. And some of those I will be mentioning in my presentation today. So when I moved here in the UAE, I made sure to also extend that study further by looking into the reading lives of not just students, undergraduate and postgraduate students, but also faculty members. I've always believed, and research confirms this, that a reading teacher or a reading professor is a more effective teacher or a more effective professor. So definitely we have to walk the talk if we are in the College of Education. So we wanted to find out exactly what the reading lives of students are, both postgrad and undergrad, as well as faculty members as well. The exciting thing about this is that my former colleague from the NIE in Singapore, Professor Rowani Tupas, has also moved to another institution at the same time that I moved to United Arab Emirates University. So we still collaborated together. I reached out to him and he is glad to continue this collaboration further. He is now with the University College London, with UCL. So as you know, UCL is the world's #1 in education, going on, I think, 8 years now. So they have always been there. So I'm very privileged to have him join as an external PI. And he's also a renowned social linguist. So that's Dr. Rowani Tupas. I'm also happy to say that we are not just multidisciplinary, we're also multi-ethnic. One of my co-PIs is the chair of the special education department, Dr. Hala El Hawaris. She's Sudanese American, but she has been here in the UAE for the past 15 years. Our very own college dean is also part of the research study because she's a fierce reading advocate. She has always been advocating for literacy practices in the country, and she is Emirati. We are supported by 2 PhD research assistants. One is a math teacher, but she's also a huge book nerd, and she's combining mathematics and literacy together in her own doctoral dissertation. And we also have Hind, who is a special education teacher, because one of the goals, one of the objectives of our research project is to develop a catalog of international diverse picture book titles that depict exceptionalities, meaning those with special educational needs, as well as those who are gifted and talented and high creatives. Again, that is my area of specialization as well. The other end of the spectrum, those who are highly gifted, highly able. And also the depiction of others, those who are always perceived as the outsiders or those who are excluded or marginalized members of the community. How are they portrayed in picture books, and to develop a catalog of outstanding picture book titles that revolve around that. So I think you're very fortunate in the sense that I am now sharing with you like little bits and pieces of those of that catalog in order for you to enjoy and in order to build your capacity as educators and as educational psychologists, as practitioners, to be able to hand the perfect book to the right child at the perfect time. So that is the core idea behind, reading for social and emotional learning. Okay, now, so this is roughly what I intend to do with you all today in like an hour and 15 minutes now, or an hour and 16 minutes. I hope to cover the following topics: the link between reading and the social and emotional learning framework, its components, its significance. Then we perhaps, yeah, there you go. Okay, then we will also look at the definition of what exactly diverse picture books mean and how we can use it in the classroom. Then we will do a read aloud. Like I said, I will need volunteers, active volunteers from you to read aloud some outstanding picture book titles, and I will ask you for ideas on how you can introduce them in the classroom. I will give you time to really think about it. I will play some music while you think so that hopefully it inspires you to come up with discussion questions, possible activities, given that picture book that we have read aloud together. And I will also curate a few titles on intergenerational stories, do a read aloud on grief and healing, because all of us are experiencing the pandemic right now. And I was able to find the perfect picture book that captures that experience. Then we finally end with some implications for practitioners, for educators, including some important questions that I believe we should be asking ourselves as educators. So first, let's try to establish the link between reading and social and emotional learning. So my first question to the participants, and I will wait for your answers for this. Like I said, it's important for you to go to Menti. Let me type that down again. Here you go. Or go to menti.com and put in this code. My first question to this esteemed, distinguished international group of participants today is, what does reading mean to you? Because we need to establish that at the very onset. Okay, so now I will play some music while we wait for your responses, because your responses will be shown in real time. I found this playlist of Jazz Indonesia. So hopefully this is pleasing for most of you. All right. While we wait for the responses from the participants. Right now we have 51 participants joining us. So please feel free to write your answers. Okay, great. We now have one answer. Okay, so in the interest of time, let me now read some of your responses, which is really wonderful. I'm happy to see all of this because it resonates deeply with me. I am one of those who really read for pleasure, not just for information, although I do see here as well that reading is also defined by some of you as a process of just taking in information or getting knowledge and knowing other idea or sharing information. But I'm happy to see here from educational psychologists that reading is one of my healing. Very good. When you're feeling stressed, and that it's a way to get your own me time. Just to share with you, I do experience feeling burned out even more if I don't read. And the more activities that I need to do as part of my work right now, because I'm serving in a leadership position in our college as an assistant dean, the more committees that I have, the more meetings I have, the more that I need to read, because it's my cone of silence. It's my link to sanity, which again is very, very relevant for educational psychologists. So it's a way of exploring the world, extracting words from the book, getting practical implementation, seeing the outside world from a distance. Okay, great. I'm happy to see all of these responses from all of the participants. Now, let me try to reframe your understanding of reading as something that simply goes beyond enunciating words from a page, or simply having text comprehension, or simply a way of obtaining information. Rather, I would like for you to consider reading as liberation. reading as a form of social justice, reading as a form of self-empowerment. And I would like to quote actually from, let me just put it here. I would like to quote from Goldie Muhammad. She has written this fabulous professional development text called Cultivating Genius. She pointed out that reading or literacy means something very different for people of color, such as ourselves. And I'm happy to see that practically all of your international participants are also, very diverse people of color as well. So it's not just connected to phonics. It's not just connected to vocabulary or text comprehension. Rather, it is linked more to acts of self-empowerment, self-determination, and self-liberation, which can be extremely, extremely powerful. And she further stated that literacy was not just for self-enjoyment or fulfillment. It was tied to action and efforts to shape the socio-political landscape of a country that was founded on oppression. So in just, I think, 2 weeks' time, I will actually be talking in greater depth about this in Colorado. So as part of the National Association for Gifted Children Conference, 2 of my papers, not just one, 2 of my papers have been accepted for an hour-long presentations. It's more like a workshop really with American teachers, where I will be talking about the portrayal of the gifted others in diverse picture books. So that's one of the sessions that we're going to have. The second session that we are having is decolonizing classroom bookshelves through international picture books. And I have quoted liberally from Goldie Muhammad's professional development text, where she talks about reading and reframing it and looking at it in terms of self-empowerment and self-liberation. Hence, the need for international titles or decentering the focus of our library collection to also include and surface the voices of those who have traditionally been silenced or marginalized in public discourse and in academic discourse. So the figure that I am sharing with you now here is adapted from the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, or what is called as Casel. And I emphasize the word collaborative here because it signifies the strength and the power of the community that regards social and emotional learning as integral to high quality and equitable education for all our students. All the educational psychologists, for example, in Singapore, are mandated to explicitly include SEL competencies in all the interactions that they have with their students, in the same way that all teachers, regardless of the content areas that they teach or the level that they're teaching, be it elementary or high school, you're expected to infuse these SEL competencies in the classroom. So the idea is that once SEL competencies are taught to all of our students, then children, and eventually when they become adults, they will become more self-aware, caring, responsible, engaged, and lifelong learners who work together to achieve their goals and create a more inclusive, just world. So I have read that specifically from the website, from the casel.org website, which I have also included in this set of slides, which I am sure our conference organizers will be sharing with you as well. Okay, so in Singapore, there is also what is known as the character and citizenship education subject, where again, the expectation is that social and emotional learning competencies will be taught during that particular classroom period. And they also have the infrastructure that enables them to do community service as part of the responsible decision-making aspect or component of the SEL competencies. So if you look closely, I'm not sure if you're able to see the screen as much as you're able to, or if you're doing a full screen, but what the Ministry of Education in Singapore has done in addition to just this pie framework, right? The circular framework is to break down across behavioral competencies all of these SEL skills. Like, for example, what do we mean when we say social awareness? So social awareness has to do with perspective taking, with empathy, with appreciating diversity, with respect for others. So you can see very clearly that there are specific behavioral indicators across each SEL competencies. So if there are behavioral indicators, then it's easier for a teacher or an educator or a psychologist to be able to measure, right? And to assess whether there is indeed a development from before, after, or as compared to after the SEL intervention. So relationship management is defined as negotiation, refusal and conflict management, seeking and providing help, and so forth. So what I have done in my course module and in the research study that I have led in both Singapore and here in the UAE is to curate diverse international picture book titles from around the world that tap into all of these definitions across each of the SEL competencies. And if you visit gatheringbooks.org, and I will share that with you later, you will be able to see that broken down into these specific components. Okay, so what does research have to say to us about the impact of receiving SEL instruction? And this has been established, for a number of years now, that whether you teach SEL explicitly in a structured, systematic manner, or whether you introduce it organically or implicitly in your classroom, it works. SEL instruction works. So how do they know that it works? So children report feeling more valued. They are no longer invisible in their classrooms. They feel seen, they feel closer to their teachers, they have a deeper sense of engagement with their professors, with their school community, and they're able to commit even further into learning their schoolwork, meeting deadlines and school assignments and so forth. They're more motivated to learn, basically, because they feel that they are a part of something and that they're not isolated. They don't feel excluded from their school community. Now, what we are further seeing outside of the school setting, but rather in industries around the globe, and I believe Google and Apple, I believe, has released this statements about needing more people within their specific industries who are able to serve as team players. So basically, industries are not simply looking for people who are good at what they do skills-wise, because that can be taught. In fact, some of the things that we do as part of our job, we learn as we go along, right? But rather, they're looking for people who are able to work as a team player. They're personable, they're empathetic towards the needs of other people. They can essentially read the room. They know what is happening, what is going on, and they're able to respond appropriately given specific situations. So for example, the image on the left is from the School Library Journal in the US. So they're emphasizing the need to teach students resilience, empathy through all of these social and emotional learning strategies, and how books or libraries can actually help. So again, the link between reading and social and emotional learning. So this has very clear implications for us as educators, because what this basically means is that teaching our content areas, it's not enough any longer. We need to be able to prepare our young people how to build the dispositions, not just the skills, but the dispositions that will enable them to succeed in the workplace. So what does that include? It includes things such as managing deadlines, dealing with stress or anxiety. How do you manage conflicts with co-workers who may be coming from an entirely different cultural background from you? How do you do effective intercultural communication, with people whose cultural practices may be different from yours? So in short, the need to train our students to become global citizens or citizens of the world who also have a deep and abiding sense of who they are as Indonesians, as Nigerians, or as Arabs, for those coming from the Middle East, right? As Africans. So that deep-rooted sense of identity, along with the expansive idea of belonging to a larger world out there. So I've mentioned to you that I also have the website, gatheringbooks.org. So what I have done is to make our research findings not just accessible to a few people who have access to library databases, but rather to democratize knowledge production and knowledge dissemination by ensuring that more people are aware of that catalog of international picture book titles, to a lot of educators, educational psychologists across those SEL competencies, social and emotional learning competencies. So if you go to gatheringbooks.org and click on the social and emotional learning bookshelf, you will be able to see that curation of titles. And the international school librarians that I've worked with are very, very happy with this, because essentially I've simplified their work for them, because I've already tagged and categorized the picture books across specific themes. And it's very, very helpful for them. There you go. So this is the product of the research that we have done so far. I've mentioned, I think earlier, that it was very popular with international school librarians, and it was also featured in Straits Times in Singapore back in 2017, where you can see that picture books aren't just for children. It can also be used for older readers, more mature readers. There are a few other publications here that I will be more than happy to share with Professor Tina to also disseminate with the other graduate students and undergraduate students who may be keen on finding out more about, for example, the responses of teachers to these diverse picture books and so forth. Okay, now let's move on to what exactly do we mean by diverse picture books, and why is it significant, and what is its connection to SEL? So this time, I want to hear from you. What is your understanding of diverse picture books? So as earlier, I will play music while we wait for your responses, and I will give you a chance to write down your answers here, and I will copy and paste this again on the chat box. So please do go to menti.com, and then we will look at some of your answers. So again, the question here is, what is your understanding of diverse picture books? I put it in the chat box. And while we wait for your insightful answers, let me play some music. I think this is called Living in Jakarta. Okay, great. I think we will be able to play the entire playlist of Jazz Indonesia while we wait for a few of your responses. So I'm glad to see a few answers here now. And I think that Professor Tina is taking note, right? Because I believe that you will be graded, or you will be evaluated as part of your active participation in all of the courses for the summer program, well, this fall or autumn program. So we can see a fair number of responses here. There's a book with a lot of pictures and colors. with a better understanding of diversity in the world, with variations, colorful book, many cultural types, amazing visuals. Good. Okay, color book with so many pictures, one type of book that is fun to read, a lot of skin colors and cultures. Great, awesome, good. Okay, I'm happy to see some of your thoughts and responses about the definition of diverse picture books. And please do not be scared to share your thoughts, because like I said in the chat box, there are no right or wrong answers here. I really just would like to see where you are at. Okay, so in our particular study, for instance, this is how we defined diverse picture books, which is also found in research or in literature. So we definitely included themes that went beyond just looking at diversity in skin color or race and ethnicity, as what some of your responses indicated, but rather we really examined the whole gamut of multiculturalism to further include, like, for instance, differences in ability. Those who may not necessarily be neurotypical. That is why we are developing that catalog of picture books on exceptionalities. There could also be diversity in terms of religion, in terms of gender identity, body image, political belief, socioeconomic status. So the idea is, again, like I said earlier, in the aspect or in the process of decolonizing bookshelves, it's really surfacing and decentering stories to highlight those narratives that have been traditionally been underrepresented in literature or have been marginalized in society. Basically, we look at picture books as outstanding works of art. So there has to be that subtle interplay between text and visual image, such that the visual image add a different dimension or add a different sort of reading experience to the reader, which also provides multiple spaces for interpretation and meaning making. So it's not just the author who is responsible for meaning making, but the reader himself or herself. We also challenge the assumption of diversity in diverse picture books as understood just exclusively from the lens of whiteness. So in the course module that I have shared with you earlier, the two course modules meant for higher degree students that I offered to graduate students from Singapore, also coming here from the UAE, I made sure to cast the net wide whenever I talk about diversity, to also include international orientations and international book titles from other parts of the world. I was very mindful to also introduce locally published titles to promote that sense of identification from within your own cultural context. In fact, I will be very, very happy if at the end of the session, those coming from different countries, from Somalia, from Nigeria, and from all the other countries mentioned earlier, to share with me like one or two outstanding picture book titles coming from your country. I will be more than happy to include them if they fit into the criteria of in the catalog that we are developing for diversity, for diverse titles. Okay. I've also heard from a lot of Southeast Asian educators, those coming from Malaysia, from Singapore, even from the Philippines as well, that why do we need to include stories that are very different from our reality when they're not really relevant to us? Like, for example, why do we need to share stories about Black Lives Matter, for instance, when this is not relevant to our context? So again, one of the goals of our study as well is to challenge those assumptions of relevance by also asking important questions like, who determines exactly what books are relevant for whom? Because this in itself is already an act of power by the educator or by the teacher. So more than that, it also defeats the purpose of diversity in diverse picture books, because the idea essentially is to promote that sense of identification, while at the same time challenging the reader to be able to go beyond themselves, to recognize that there is a much bigger world out there, and to also acknowledge that my cultural traditions or beliefs are neither better nor worse. They're also neither less or more or less important or relevant than this outstanding narrative that I am reading. It's just different. Now, my next question to all of you now, and I can see that there are 49 participants. I'm hoping that there will be more joining us in the next slide, is do you use diverse picture books in your classroom? So let's see some of your answers here, and we will be able to see your responses in real time, like I've mentioned earlier. So let's play some music while we wait for your answers. Question is, great. One of the greatest things about Menti is that I can actually share all of your responses to the conference organizers at the end of the session, so that Professor Tina will be able to have like an Excel sheet of all of your answers, which is great, I feel. Yeah. Apart from the fact that it's so fascinating to see the graphs just changing as you write down most of your responses, which is, yeah, I think that is really, really cool. Okay, so at the moment, there are 16 participants and an overwhelming, well, 59% now are saying that they do not really share. Again, no judgment here. No right or wrong answers. Just your own experience, personal experiences. Okay. I think similar to our experience last Friday, there is still an overwhelming majority of people who may not necessarily feel that confident in sharing diverse picture books in the classroom. But wow, we can see the yeses here sort of like competing actively now with those who are saying no across the 19 participants that we have. Okay, so but 53% are saying that no, they do not necessarily use picture books in the classroom, regardless of who I teach. And I've taught quite a number, from very young children to adults across a variety of disciplines. I've taught the Singapore Army as well. In Singapore, I've taught them critical and creative thinking strategies. Even when I am with a crowd of school leaders, the Singapore Army, teachers, educational psychologists, I often read aloud. I do use picture books in the classroom, and I find it to be a very effective tool in really just connecting to the audience and to the participants. Now, if we look at what the literature is also telling us in terms of the connection, right, between diverse picture books and SEL competencies, there is a very strong link that has been established because it makes young people, and we are definitely on the lookout for young people here, they are able to see themselves in the stories that they read, and while they may feel in the margins when they're outside of your classroom, inside your classroom, if you're able to reach them through the narratives that you share with them, then they do not feel invisible any longer, they feel safe. So that's the most important thing. That's the key word here. They feel that sense of safety, that they don't feel a sense of being threatened once they are in your classroom, and they know that you are seeing them, that you value them, and that their lives, their narratives, their experiences are important to you. And that can happen through sharing narratives that resonate with them. So it's very, very affirming in that respect. Now, the next question for you is, what are some of the challenges in using diverse picture books in the classroom? Because again, while we may have good intentions and while we may want to share picture books in the classroom, there are indeed some challenges in using them in the classroom. So again, I'm giving you the opportunity to write down your responses here while I play some more jazz Indonesian music. Yeah. Here. Okay, so the question is, And like I said, Professor Tina is definitely monitoring your answers as part of your key participation in this program. And here is Menti. Yeah. And let's wait for some of your answers. What are the challenges in using diverse picture books in the classroom? Okay, so no answers so far. Okay, some of the audience are saying they have no idea at the moment. Okay, good. Okay. So I think we can definitely work with some of the responses that we see here now. Access is a definite challenge, and I'm very happy that you have mentioned that, because that is very true. While you may want to share as many picture books as you want, you may not have access to those outstanding resources or those outstanding materials. So the unavailability, we can see that very clearly now. Adult students underestimate picture books, which are usually meant for children. So again, very few people may be aware of the complexity of some of the themes that are actually included in some outstanding picture books that can talk about, losing one's language, for instance, or losing one's home, or losing one's cultural heritage. There are picture books that definitely surface those kinds of realities, and they're not meant for younger readers. They're meant for more mature, experienced, older readers. And in your capacity as educational psychologists, just being able to reach your clients, just being able to connect with the students under your care through a powerful story, that can be a life-changing moment for that particular student as well. Yep, so there's the stereotype that it's just meant for children. And how do you explain to the parents why you are selecting these kinds of narratives and so forth? Good. Okay. I'm glad to hear and see some of these answers. Now, what does research have to say in terms of the challenges in using diverse picture books in the classroom? So its power could also be the limitation in terms of the comfort, the degree of comfort that teachers may have in using them in the classroom. So as we can see here, in what the literature has to say, diverse picture books encourages students to disrupt a common situation or understanding. So again, you have to ask yourselves as educational psychologists, as school leaders, as teachers, is this what I want to happen? And if it happens, am I ready for it? Do I have the capacity to be able to deal with this kind of situation or scenario? So diverse picture books also allow young readers to examine multiple viewpoints, focus on social political issues and take action and promote social justice. That is why it's also deeply embedded into the service learning component in the characters and citizenship education, for example, in Singapore. So depending on who you are as an educator, as a psychologist, and what you stand for, this may not necessarily be something that you find safe or comfortable, or you may feel that you do not have the adequate readiness or even the resources to engage in something like this. So which is why the course module that I have developed for our graduate students who are in-service teachers in Singapore, it proved to be extremely popular and meaningful, and dare I say, almost therapeutic For most of them, it can be very, very emotional whenever we would have those sessions where they immerse themselves in the stories that they're reading, because they feel safe. They feel that sense of safety, and they feel seen and validated and affirmed through the narratives that they're reading. So what this suggests, really, my dear Indonesian educators and those coming from overseas as well, are our international students who are also psychologists and teachers and school leaders. Social and emotional learning forces us to confront why exactly we do what we do. What is important to us? Why did we become psychologists or educational psychologists? Why did we become professors? Why did we become researchers? What are the core values that we strive hard to protect? So what do we need to change as well in the way that we do things so that our students feel safe, seen, valued, and less invisible whenever they're under our care? So now let's head on to the books, because I know we only have a few minutes left. Professor Tina, I don't know how we will be able to manage today. So on to the books. Merdok Amini is an Iranian-born children's illustrator. She's now based in the UK, but she's one of my favorite illustrators. So the idea, really, what I do, because you were talking about the lack of access earlier, is that I usually do a deep dive depending on my favorite authors or my favorite illustrators. If I find a particular picture book really outstanding, I make sure to find all the other titles that author or that illustrator had published, right? So I did that same thing with Merdok Amini. She's amazing, and she has collaborated quite a number of times with amazing authors like Hannah Khan and Nedi Okorafor. I think Nedi Okorafor is from Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just share with you a few of the titles that I find really fascinating. Like, for instance, in Crescent Moons and Pointed Minarets, Merdok Amini was the illustrator, Hannah Khan was the author. They have transformed what is usually just a very, very simple concept book of shapes, right? Because it's a book about shapes. But they have imbued it with a clear sense of identity. There's that joyful celebration of culture and honoring of one's faith in such a very quiet, unassuming, but also very decisive way. So each of the shapes had taken on a sacred significance. So there's the rectangle door of the mosque, the triangle in the mimbar set of stairs. So there's that profound tone in the narrative that it does not pontificate, but it also invites the reader in, regardless of the religious denomination that they're coming from, because there's that shared sense of community, a festive feeling that resonates throughout the entire book that is nothing short of joyful. Now, my favorite, and I will do a read aloud now, like I have promised earlier. I wanted you to have a first-hand immersive experience of exactly how powerful picture books can be. And I will not be able to convince you if you do not experience that yourself. But this time, I will need volunteers from the crowd, from the audience, maybe just 3 participants, because I will be reading most of it, but I will be turning it over to some of the audience members to help me read some of the pages here in the book. So can we have a show of hands? Who would like to volunteer to
Okay,
help me read?
Esther Mira, excuse me.
Yes.
Before we start the activity, can we have several questions, if any, in order to make sure that we accommodate questions from the participants before we start?
Perfect.
That they have questions.
I think this is very wise because we may not have the time at the end.
I believe
Good.
many bubbles above their heads about the material and the inspiring presentation from you. So is it okay? Are you
Of
comfortable if
course.
we have
Yeah.
a question before we start the activity?
Great. Yeah.
Okay, so they can raise a hand, or probably you can put your question. You can assert your question on chat box. Okay, Professor Myra?
Yes. Sure.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, please, ladies and gentlemen, if you have questions, you can raise your hand or just put your questions on the chat box. Is there any?
Looks like there are no questions.
Okay, okay. Okay, then. So we can continue to the activity then. But we just want to that we accumulate questions and make it more
Perfect.
interactive.
Definitely. Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Okay, thank you, Professor. We can continue to read aloud.
Great. Okay, so any volunteers, please, from the audience who can help me read aloud? I'll probably nominate Uti Nantika as one of the readers. I'm sure you,
Okay.
right? Anyone else? How to develop children with multiple intelligences? Huh. Very interesting question. I'm not sure if it's within the parameters of the talk that I am delivering on reading for social and emotional learning. But I think just nurturing your child depending on their areas of interests and their preferences, you know, be it the arts, be it the be it science and math, be it reading. I think just providing all the resources that the child needs, depending on their interest. Do not force anything on them simply because you want it or you like it, or you're a doctor, you want your children to become doctors as well. So I think we need to be able to encourage them to chart their own paths and to encourage them in those areas as well, and to provide all the support that they need. Yeah, across those varieties of areas and specializations. So any volunteers from the crowd, from the audience, to help us read aloud? Do you have like very shy international students, Professor Tina?
Okay. Can we choose?
Yeah.
Can we choose,
yeah.
Myra?
Of course, yes, please.
Okay. I will choose. Hold on. Fazli from Malaysia.
Fazli, are you okay with that? Will you be able to unmute yourself? Yeah, okay, great. So Fazli said yes. And we also have Uti Nantika. I think we're fine. Yeah, so we can definitely read now, because at the end of this read aloud, there is an activity that the audience will need to do. I think we might need to just cut it off to that part, right, Professor Tina? Because I'm looking at the time and we'll jump right into the other picture book and the activity for that, right? So
Oh, excuse me, but no mix speak.
no
mix speak.
mic. Okay, so maybe another person.
Okay.
Who can...
Aziati from Malaysia.
So Aziati, is that fine? Are you able to unmute yourself?
Hi,
Hi, hello. Okay.
can you give me some time? I need to get my tudung.
Oh,
Sure, but you don't need to put on your video. Just the microphone is fine. Thank you, Asiati and Uti Nantika. So I will call on you as I read aloud the picture book. Anyone who speaks Spanish? Anyone who understands what this title means? So the title of the picture book that I have chosen to read aloud with you all is Yo Soy Muslim. Anyone who knows Spanish? What does this mean? So in keeping, again, with the nature of diversity and the fact that we have culturally and linguistically diverse learners, it's good to have that bilingual aspect, right, to the picture book. So Dr. Faisal is not aware of, no, I am not. But there is a solidarity, definitely. Dr. Ahmad, do you know Spanish? So you know what this means? Yo soy Muslim. For those of you who may not be aware, because I'm also looking at the time, this is actually Spanish for I am Muslim. Yeah. Yo soy is I am. Yeah. So now that we have Uti Nantika and we also have Asiati, yay. Okay, you have put on your tudong and you will help us out in the read aloud. Beautiful. Okay, so like I said, it's important for me to get you to really appreciate or have an immersive understanding of how powerful diverse picture books can be. And this is one very classic example of that. Soy Muslim, written by Mark Gonzalez and illustrated by Merdok Amini. And we can see here a subtitle to Yosoy Muslim, a father's letter to his daughter, right? And we can also see the dedication page. According to Mark Gonzalez, he is dedicating it to my daughter and all children. May you know you are loved. And Mer Dr. Mini is dedicating this to all little ones learning of their roots. Okay, so let's read aloud. And like I said, I will just call on Asiati and Utinantika as and when I want you to read. Okay. It has been said, if you climb a tree to the very top and laugh, your smile will touch the sky. If you stay there overnight, you will learn to count stars like dreams. Inside cities where skyscrapers cloud the view of everything above, walk in the steel shadows, remembering Mayan pyramids that too lived amongst the heavens. There are questions we all ask when we are learning what it means to be human. Who invented my hands? Why wasn't I born with wings? And does the moon ever get lonely? There are questions the world will ask. What are you? And where are you from? And there will come a day when some people in the world will not smile at you. Okay, so Utinantika, please read the next page.
Okay. On that day, tell them this. I'm Muslim. I Allah, angels, and a place almost as old as time. I speak Spanish, Arabic, and dreams.
Very beautiful. So please read the next one as well.
Mi mama creates life. Mi abuelo worked the fields. My ancestors did amazing things, and so will I.
Thank you. No matter what they say, know you are wondrous. A child of crescent moons, a builder of mosques, a descendant of brilliance, an ancestor in training. Asiati, are you ready? Is Asiati with us? Or maybe Utinantika again for the next page?
Say it with me. Yes, I am Muslim. Our prayers were here before any borders were.
Very good. So do you see just how complex this picture book can actually be if introduced in a meaningful way by the educator? Okay, so please read again, Utinantika.
Your soil Muslim, and the desert hold the sacred souls. Your soil hummingbirds send blessings with their wings.
Okay, so Asiati, can you read this, please?
You soy Muslim. If you listen closely to the drum, you can hear God. Dance, smile, laugh, pray. Say it with me. Yo soy Muslim. Yo soy Muslim.
Thank you, Asiati. By those who dance with the wind, smile at the sun, laugh in the rain, and pray. All right. So thank you to Asiati and to Utinantika. Thank you so much for volunteering to read that picture book aloud. So let me just ask everyone, what did you think of the book before you type down some of your possible activities, questions? How did you feel as you were reading it? Maybe let's ask Utinantika. As you were reading some parts of the book, are you with us, Utinantika? Yeah. So how did you feel as you were reading some parts of the book? How was that for you?
I feel so engaged to the picture describes, like a situation that, I don't know, there are some emotional reaction, probably because of the pictures and the phrases written on the book.
Good. Awesome. All right. So while we are waiting for the other responses here, maybe we could also invite Asiati. How did you feel as you were reading parts of that book aloud?
The word is simple, but it's very engaging. And also the pictures describe about what the word is all about. So I think the word itself is powerful to explain to the children.
Exactly. And it also amplifies that feeling of maybe being perceived as the other in different cultural settings, where being a Muslim is not something that is evidently welcome, right? And rather than avoid talking about the experience, this picture book provides educational psychologists, practitioners, teachers and school leaders a way to affirm the child's spiritual values, experiences, and give them an opportunity to share their own experiences, what they're going through at that particular moment. So it could be a powerful tool of connection. So it's that sense of connectedness through that shared narrative with the child. So we have one participant, yeah, very colorful way, good, yeah, wonderful. So hopefully there are more answers coming along later on. Even if you respond a little bit later, I think the Menti still registers your answers, and Professor Tina will definitely have a copy of that as well. Okay, so I don't think we will have a chance for me to share some of the other curation of titles, but these are just like a sample of intergenerational stories and identity that you could also explore with your own students. So let me just skip for a bit because, like I said, I don't think we have a lot of time any longer, but I just wanted to emphasize like these two picture books because they just came out recently, Eyes That Kiss in the Corners and The Most Beautiful Thing. And I wanted to surface them because there has been like a movement as well in the US. I think the hashtag is called Stop Asian Hate. Are you familiar with that hashtag that is going on social media? I believe that a lot of Asian Americans are being targeted, for example, in other countries, in the US, in Europe, in Canada, in the UK, by virtue of what's going on with the pandemic. So if they look like they're Chinese, for instance, or if they look remotely Asian, they experience a lot of hatred. So I wanted to share these two picture books in particular, like Eyes That Kiss in the Corners, right? So what these two picture books have done is that they have reframed something that may not necessarily be perceived positively by other people into something less negative or something even more empowering and something joyful and liberating. So things that other people may consider ugly or untoward or something that they reject entirely is something that you take pride in. So there is that owning of that cultural heritage, that sense of identity that is, deep and as old as time. That's why it's, intergenerational narratives. So another read aloud before we adjourn, and I wanted to really read this because it touches on the pandemic. So I'll probably read it myself so that we are able to find the time to have a bit of an interaction towards the end. So Outside Inside by Lee Uyen Pham. And think about possible activities that you can do with your students in the classroom if you are introducing this particular title. Lee Uyen Pham, if I'm not mistaken, is Vietnamese American. So something strange happened on an unremarkable day just before the season changed. Everybody who was outside went inside. Everyone, everywhere. Everyone just went inside, shut their doors, and waited. Well, almost everyone. Some people needed to be where they needed to be. Outside, the sky was quiet, but the wind still blew and birds kept singing. Raccoons came out and squirrels played in the streets, but the car stayed away. The world felt a little different. Inside, we baked and cooked, made music and watched TV. We read and played games. Some of us worked a little, some of us worked a lot, and some of us couldn't work at all. We all felt a little different. Outside, there were fences, both real and pretend. Swings sat still, and slides were lonely. Bells didn't ring, and halls were empty. We had birthdays without parties, shared words without sounds, and reached each other without touching. The world was changing a tiny bit outside. Inside, we waited and we worried, we laughed and we cried, and we tried to breathe. We made things together and did things alone. We hoped and prayed and wished. We were all changing a tiny bit inside. Outside, the world kept growing. Inside, we kept growing too. So why did we all go inside? There were lots of reasons, but mostly because everyone knew it was the right thing to do. On the outside, we are all different, but on the inside, we are all the same. And we remember that soon spring would come, inside and outside. So thank you very much for listening to that picture book. So what Li Uy and Pham has also done is to write a very, very extensive author's note, which also adds to the authenticity of the narrative that explained what inspired her to create this picture book that was published during the time of the pandemic, as I think you can all very well tell. And the illustrations that she has included are actually inspired from people that she knows. Those that are in grayed out colors are actually people who have passed away because of the pandemic. And I'm sure all of us had experienced, loss and are grieving, the loss of people who are very dear to us or very close to us around the world. And I think these kinds of picture books allow us the space and the avenue to really reach our young people in that much more effective manner, because it's couched in a storytelling format that hopefully would connect with them. So I know that we don't have time anymore for this activity wherein I was supposed to ask you how did you feel after reading the book. Maybe just one or two responses from the audience right now. You can unmute yourselves. How did you feel as I was reading the book? Any volunteers? Nice. A story of hope and dream amidst the outbreaks, energizing. Any other thoughts from the crowd, from the audience, from the students? Coming from different time zones. I hope that it has moved you as well as it has moved me. I have read quite a number of narratives that depict, the pandemic and the experience of loss, but this one somehow reached me in a different way, particularly with the framing and the borders, because it's very reminiscent of what our world has been reduced to, which is Zoom meetings. I'm sure you're all zoomed out, all the online conversations that we have been having over the past several years, I think 2 years now, right, with the pandemic. So yeah, I'm happy. Definitely. So that's a question that you can ask students after reading the book. How did you feel after reading the book, right? You feel connected to the character, you have the sense of multiple emotions and hope. So that sense of hopefulness, I believe, is really, really very important. Okay, so these 4 picture books have just been published very recently, 2020 and 2021. And I feel very, very privileged that we live in a world where these are the kinds of books that are now being published out there, because it really do not just connect to young readers, but also to adults such as ourselves. So these are 4 picture books that depict mindfulness and well-being. Again, very important for educational psychologists, and is a reminder even for adults like ourselves to find that space to be quiet and just breathe, right? So this particular book, for instance, illustrated by Filipino-American Isabel Pepper Rojas, and the poems are written by multi-award winning American poet Georgia Hurd. when I read this, I just felt very, very calm as I read through, the pages in the book. George Hurd was saying things like, "Your breath is the translator of your heart." So for educational psychologists who would like to teach breathing exercises, for example, to young children, this book would be an astounding example of how you can facilitate that breathing in and breathing out. So George Hurd was also saying something like, "I become friends with the seasons of my breath and my own voice blossoms." So it's a very lyrical approach, really, to breathing and mindfulness and just, taking that space to be one with yourself and to be present. So can I invite Azyati again and Uti Nantika to read with me this poem called Three-Way Loving Kindness Meditation. I will read the first verse, and then Uti Nantika can read the second one, and Azyati could read the third one. Okay? So let me read the first one in this three-way loving kindness meditation. Whisper these words to yourself. May I be at peace. May I be safe. May I be filled with loving kindness. Uti Nantika, can you read the second one?
Sure.
This one. Whisper these words.
Whisper these words toward a friend or someone else. May you be at peace. May you be safe. May you be filled with loving kindness.
Thank you, Uti Nantika. Azyati, the third verse, please.
Whisper these words towards the earth. May the earth be at peace. May the earth be safe. May we fill the earth and all creatures on it with loving kindness.
Very good. Thank you so much. That was beautiful. So this is just an example of a poem that is found in that collection of poems in My Thoughts Are Clouds. So it's really very beautiful. And it basically encapsulates, the Muslim greeting, Assalamualaikum, right? May you be at peace, right? Okay, so what are the implications for educators? I know that we're running out of time now. So I think what is very clear here is that you need to read more as educators, as educational psychologists, in order for you to be able to hand the perfect book to the perfect child at the perfect time. You need to have an awareness of all the picture books that are out there that you can use. So read more diversely. And I cannot stress this enough. And I believe that it will enrich you not only as professionals, but also as human beings, right? So if you can spend 30 minutes of your time reading Facebook or Instagram updates, I am sure that you can also allocate that same amount of time in enriching yourselves through the pages of a book. You need to serve as role models. For young people, you have to build reading communities, have book clubs with your students, maybe. Think of whether you have a classroom library or a school library. Perhaps you should not just engage external vendors to suggest picture book titles, but rather you can take a more active role in selecting, more diversely from different regions, from Sudan, from Nigeria, from China, from Japan, from everywhere. I've mentioned Inosanto Nagara, an Indonesian author and illustrator, several times during my previous keynote speeches with you all. So I'm hoping that you finally, found the time to really look at some of his publications, because they're really, really astounding. And a few of you may also be wondering, exactly where do I begin in selecting picture books or diverse picture book titles for my school, right? Or for my classroom. So if I were to summarize it, teachers, parents, school leaders, educators, psychologists should be on the lookout for themes that do not just that do not just look at the phonetics or vocabulary or comprehension aspect of the story, but rather stories that demonstrate how interconnected we are as human beings, not just in unidimensional ways, but in more nuanced, more profound, more meaningful ways. So the key aspect to look for here is authenticity across all of these areas, be it in characterization, in the citation and acknowledgement, in the way that the setting has been depicted, in the style of illustrations, in the themes that are being shared in the storytelling aspect of it. Because it's also very important that the stories come off as very subtle rather than very didactic or preachy. Because, you know, children know when you are preaching to them and they will not listen to you. But when you tell a good story, they will listen because they know it's a good story. So it's important not to use the picture books as a way to preach to the children, but rather as a means of getting to know them. What are they thinking of? You know, how does this reach them? How do you get to know them even more intimately through the narratives that you're sharing with them and that we're reading aloud together? So I end this presentation with some key questions that, of course, educators such as yourselves should be asking as well, you know, as educational psychologists. Urgent questions, for example, related to positionality and power. Are you reading books that challenge your perceptions of the world? Are you accessing titles that also allow you to question our own ideals? Do we have the strength and the courage to do that? Do we give ourselves permission to read books that make us regard people whom we have always perceived as the others, you know, the weird, the strange, the foreign, and see them as worthy and deserving of respect, friendship, and acceptance? And you also need to be mindful of your stance as a reader or as a teacher educator. If you only perceive children as innocent and sweet and, you know, they should be shielded from the realities of the world, then the kind of books that you share with them will all flow from that positionality and from that stance. So in the workshops that I conduct across, you know, different parts of the world, across different audiences, from librarians to teachers to parents to school leaders, they usually ask questions like, is this appropriate? Is this too much for young readers? Is it too dark? Is it the right level, or is it appropriate? So again, these are all very well-meaning questions, but I think we're missing the point as well, because while it's driven by our well-intentioned desire to protect our young people's sensibilities, we're also working under the assumption that how we interpret that book is the exact same way that young children will interpret the book, when we know for a fact that it doesn't work that way, because the meaning making that the child will derive from the book will be largely different from yours, given your own sets of reality, your fields of experiences, and so forth. So questions like, is it too dark? Is it too much? These are questions that are coming from a position of privilege. Because what is too dark or what is too much for us, so much so that young readers need to be shielded from them or protected from them, is the exact reality that other children from different cultural contexts have to live with on a daily basis. So we also need to ask ourselves, do we read books to build bridges of understanding, or raise even higher walls of ignorance, prejudice, and a legitimization of why we are only entitled to certain things as compared to others by virtue of our race, our religion, our skin color, our socioeconomic status, and so forth. So before we end, as promised to Professor Tina, this is the question that all of you should be answering and make sure that you do on Menti as well. What do you commit to do as educational psychologists, as academics, as researchers to promote SEL within your capacity? Okay, so let me give you some time to do this, to work on this while I play some music. Okay. But make sure that you go to Menti to write down your responses. Okay. What do you commit to do? What do you commit to do as academics, researchers, psychologists? Okay. Okay, Fusi, don't worry. I will answer your question a bit later while we wait for some of the responses here. So this is the final question. So please make sure that you participate, because Professor Tina will be collecting the Excel file. Okay, nice, good. Try to get more access, get appropriate books, look for more picture books in Indonesian context. Okay, great, awesome. Promote visuals along with words for better understanding. Good. So it's not just reading the text, but it's also reading the art or reading the images. Okay, encourage children to read books, integrate SEL with other subjects, visual arts teaching in the classroom. Yeah, exactly. Provide more sources of books in the classroom. Enable them to and encourage students to not limit their reading with references from the school. Yep, indeed. Very good. Yep. Get access to good books, share with parents, train myself to read aloud effectively. Awesome. Great. Okay, to respond as well to the question put in the chat box, is SEL easy to implement at home? What skills should parents have? Let me tell you a secret to those who are parents here in our audience, and this is a secret, right? You are already doing it. You are already teaching SEL to your own kids who may not just know the terminology or the academic jargon for it, but if you're teaching your children good values such as respect for others, respect for diversity, how to deal with bullies, for example, in their school, how to respect elders, how to listen to other people, how to empathize with other people, you're already doing it, dear parents. So it's really being more mindful and intentional, I suppose, in the way that we teach all the other SEL competencies. But let me assure you, you're already doing it. Okay, great. So we have a lot of other thoughts and ideas here. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, read more and so forth. And definitely I will share this with Dr. Pina. And just to wrap up our discussion right now, allow me to just read very, very quickly from Will Schwalbe. This is from his book, Books for Living, because I feel that it also resonates with us as teachers, as educators. Books remain one of the strongest bulwarks we have against tyranny, but only as long as people are free to read all different kinds of books, and only as long as they actually do so. The right to read whatever you want, whenever you want, is one of the fundamental rights that helps preserve all the other rights. It's a right we need to guard with unwavering diligence, but it's also a right that we can guard with pleasure. Reading isn't just a strike against narrowness, mind control, and domination. It's one of the world's greatest joys. How we live is no trivial matter. Racing around in a state of agitation and greed and envy isn't just wasting our lives. It's a symbol of much that is wrong with our world. And reading all different kinds of books is not simply reading all different kinds of books. It's a way of becoming more fully human and more humane. When I read, I'm reminded to be more thoughtful about how I approach each day. And that's not just important for living, it's the least I can do for the dead. I read to live, I read for life. So thank you, everyone. Terima kasih. And I hope that it was informative for all of you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor Maya.
I know that it's already 2 hours for us.
Oh, it's been so fast, actually. I failed to recognize it's 2 hours already.
Yeah, so
Okay, if you don't mind, can we have a Q&A session?
Sure.
Okay,
Sure.
sure. So, ladies and gentlemen, all participants, we invite your questions. You can simply raise your hand to directly ask Professor Myra, or if you can type on chat box if you're shy to directly assert it. Thank you. Okay, is there any, please? Mm-hmm.
I'm very happy. No questions, really.
There are some in the chat. Okay.
Yeah.
There are some in the chat. Maybe you
Already
can
answered
check.
by Professor Myra.
Already.
Yeah, already.
Already answered. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Maybe Professor Myra can ask the participant about the last question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So you've already written down
Yeah.
some of the things that you commit to do as educators and as psychologists. Maybe my question to the audience right now is, given the two picture books that we shared and read aloud, are you now a little more convinced about the power of using diverse picture books in your classroom? What are your thoughts? What was your experience in hearing those two picture books, and do you think that you can use them as part of your professional activity?
Yeah, Uti, we can ask participant.
Okay.
Maybe first for a foreign participant.
Can we have Adama? Adama Konate, how to pronounce the name? I'm sorry.
Adama Konate.
Adama Konate, are you okay to share your thoughts? Okay, so probably can we have Hassan Ismail Ishak?
I think Adama has already unmuted.
Yeah,
himself.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead, Adama.
Oh yeah. Hello.
Hello. Good afternoon. Good morning.
Hello, Adama, can you hear us clearly? We
Yes.
still hear your voice.
Or maybe you can ask someone else. Uti Nantika.
Probably there's something technical issue with the microphone. Can we have Hassan Ismail? Ishak? Are you here with us?
Hello, yes.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you mind sharing your thoughts on the previous question?
Yeah.
By
So just to remind Hassan about the question, how did you feel after we have read aloud the two picture books? Are you now convinced that they can be used in the classroom or can be used with your clients, with your students as educational psychologists? And how do you do it? How will you do it if given the chance? Hassan.
Thank you very much. Also, the voice is very low. Can you voice up?
raise up the volume. Oh, he barely hear our voice, Professor.
Hello?
Or you, yeah, go ahead. We can hear you.
Sorry.
Or you can also opt to write down your responses in the chat box if that is easier. Yeah. So you don't
Okay,
necessarily
I will write it.
Yeah,
I
sure.
don't understand the full question. I don't understand full question still.
So the question is, how did you feel after those books have been read aloud?
Yeah. First and foremost, the lecture was very interesting, and it's my first time to attend this not this normal sessions. Also, I am still new psychology student, and I'm happy. It was very interesting. It was excellent.
Awesome, thank you. So just to add as well, that there is what is known as, let me type it in the chat box, what is known as bibliotherapy. That is practiced by clinical psychologists, but there are also like different aspects to bibliotherapy. So there is what is known as developmental bibliotherapy. Okay, let me type it down here. And also what is known as clinical bibliotherapy. So as a clinician or as a clinical psychologist, clinical bibliotherapy is what I usually do as an approach in working with high ability learners, for example, because they're voracious readers, and we usually have book clubs of sorts. And that book club is actually a means to really address some of the issues that they're facing, social and emotional issues that they're facing, because they may not feel comfortable disclosing like details about their own personal lives. But if it's couched from within a story or a narrative, while they may seem like they're talking about the character in the book, they're actually talking about themselves. So it can really be quite a very powerful and enriching experience. The developmental bibliotherapy is something that teachers, librarians can do very easily. So what does that entail? So if you're aware of the developmental stages in a child's life, right? Like, for example, what usually happens during childhood, what usually happens during adolescence, the struggles that they're facing, rather than wait for something to happen, rather than be reactive to certain situations, you try to be more proactive by sharing stories or narratives that fit across those developmental stages in order to prepare young people that, this is a common thing that people around the world actually experience. So they know and they feel that they're not alone in that experience. They're not the only one going through that issue or that problem. So that's also part of developmental bibliotherapy. Okay.
Okay. Should we invite other thoughts from the student, Professor?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead.
Or probably volunteer. If you have some ideas, please raise your hand to answer the latest question from Professor Myra, please.
Yeah, just share with us your experience after hearing books read aloud. How did that impact you? And how can you use them in your own practice?
Is there any volunteer or should I invite? I'm afraid they will hate me for inviting you. No, yeah.
Or you can, yeah. I think we can wrap up.
You can read from the chat. We have Adama and Fazli.
Okay. I found the topic very interesting, yeah. That's from Adama and Fazli. Sorry, I have to make a move. Generally, I can say it was very interesting and some of info are new things as parent. Okay. So there are some questions related to parenting skills regarding to how to increase the children reading skills, Professor Maya.
So I think
yes, excuse me. Maybe you can invite the participant from the educational psychology student or alumni.
Okay. Can we have? Is Rahma?
They can raise hand.
Oh yeah, you can raise your hand. A volunteer. A student of educational psychology or alumni, probably.
Yes, thank you to Dr. Faisal from Pakistan. Yeah. So definitely, the hope is really to raise more empathetic, more inclusive, kinder young people in the future.
Yeah. Uti, I think they can speak Indonesia as well, right?
Okay.
You can translate the answer.
If you're not comfortable to say it in English, it's okay to make it in Bahasa, and I will try to interpret your answer and or perspective.
Yeah,
it's okay. So from educational psychology student or alumni, probably you can chat or type your answer or perspective on chat box in Bahasa. It's okay, and probably just raise your hand.
Excuse me, Miss Uti.
Yeah. We have Ayu Olivia here. Please, Ayu.
Thank you very much for the chance.
Hi,
hello from Myra.
Good to see you again.
Me too. So I would like to express my experience after I've attended the class on the course before this, but thanks to this opportunity now I can express my feeling to Professor Myra because I've attended your class a few days ago. Then it really opened my mind and opened my eyes that reading is very meaningful. Then I actually has a digital library in my phone. And after the class, I searched the book. I usually search something like developmental self-help book and something like that. But then I searched for picture book in my digital library. Then I found that the fact that there's a lot of books that I never aware before, and I start to download it. I try to read it from now, and it's really helpful for me. Usually, I read something a bit complicated to understand, but reading picture book for me, it's really, I say, instant, because I can get the meaning not in a in a long text. I just can got the meaning after I read the short text and see the pictures. Looking at that, I became more mindful than before, I think, after the course. That's all. Thank you.
That's great.
Oh.
I'm very, very happy to hear about IU.
Thanks for
Actually,
sharing.
And I think that's very important what IU has mentioned, because I think one of the challenges mentioned earlier by the participants is that there is limited access, right, to outstanding picture book titles. So what IU has discovered is that it's really a matter of whether you're even searching for them in the first place, because maybe you don't have access because you're not really looking at the right places, or maybe you don't know what you're looking for exactly. Because my experience whenever I travel to Southeast Asia is I actually find a lot of outstanding picture books in book sales. So what you see behind me is not really all brand new. They're a product of me book hunting across different parts of the world. Yeah. And there are outstanding picture book titles and novels as well in discounted bookstores.
Wow. We can start from Aziati. We can start share picture books with parents, and how do millennial parents react to books. We can start with few parents who are willing to share knowledge. Yeah.
Awesome. Great. So this is now an extension towards research. Wonderful. You seem to be looking at a potential research question here in terms of a thesis or a dissertation or research project. Sounds good. Definitely.
Yeah. And from Rahma Ainun Enisa, I really enjoy reading aloud to my daughter. It's always a pleasure time for us. And I never know that it brings huge impact on our daily life to introduce the word, to build our understanding about everything. We use books. And it's such a delightful to know that a picture book can be taught in class in higher education. It's really interesting. Yeah, I do agree. So sometimes we feel like, oh, you're an adult, we should have full text book, yeah, and it's so like for picture books or for children, but actually no, we can use it in higher education as well.
Indeed.
Is there any other comments or probably questions from Professor Myra?
I think everyone has already shared much of their thoughts and their experiences. And I think if there is any key takeaway that I hope the participants would have after listening to today's lecture is that you don't just look at picture books as a tool to extract information or just to expand vocabulary or phonetic skills, or how to enunciate certain words, but rather as a way of learning about yourself, learning about the world, really, and seeing how deeply interconnected we are as human beings at the end of it all.
Okay, thank you, Professor Myra, for sharing. It was an amazing and insightful presentation from you.
It's my pleasure, my absolute pleasure.
Okay. To remain all participants, don't forget to fill your attendance list, because certificate will be gained if you join all lecturing sessions during the summer school. Okay, so if we have no more questions while you fill the attendance list, I think we have come to the end of our today's session. But before we close the session with Professor Myra, let's have a photo session together.
Nice.
First, yeah, just to freeze the moment, yeah, Professor Myra. So we will remember today's sharing session and lecturing. First, we would like to invite Professor Abu. Is Professor Abu still here? Dr. Tina Dahlan, and of course, Professor Myra to take photo together. Is Professor Abu here?
Sleeping, yeah.
Oh,
It's been
okay.
leaving. Yeah.
Yeah. So in 3,
Cheers.
1. Has it done, Kang Agung? Already captured?
Yes,
Yes.
already.
Okay. Thank you, Professor.
So many beautiful faces. I'm happy to see all of you here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great evening ahead of you for everyone.
Not yet. I think.
Not
Yeah,
yet.
photo
One more.
session. Yeah, we have photo session. Still.
Sure.
Of course, we invite all participants. Please open the camera, and we recommend you use a virtual background provided from the committee from the first slide. So please give us some clues, Kang Agung.
Okay. Okay, everyone. In this session, we will take photos together. And so please open your camera and then show your beautiful face and a beautiful smile. We have 2 slides. Okay. Everyone, are you join with us? Please open your camera. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay. Please keep your smile. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Thank
ladies
you,
you so
Myra.
much. Thank you. It's my
Thank you so
pleasure,
much.
Professor Tina. Thank
Yeah, we
you.
are honored too.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, please do not leave the room. After this, we will have a networking session. Yeah, Butina, we will have a
Just a
networking
moment.
session to get to know each other and make more colleagues and make friends. Because as we know, we still have several classes together during this summer school. It is not the end of our summer school program, of course. But before that, please allow us to extend our gratitude for Directorate of International Affairs and School of Postgraduate Studies UPI to make this summer school possible. Also, we would like to thank Professor Myra for sharing fruitful insights for us, Professor Myra. Thank you. We would be very
My
happy.
pleasure. It is
And
my absolute pleasure.
we would be very happy to have you on networking session. But if you have another agenda after this, you may say bye or probably give closing statement to the participants.
Sure. I think I will need to go because it's Sunday is the working day here.
Really?
In the UAE.
Friday is off, right?
Yes,
Friday is off, right?
Saturday.
I see.
Yeah, Friday, Saturdays are off. So my email has now been dinging nonstop. So thank you everyone for having me.
Professor.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
You
Okay,
are-
bye everyone.
Hope to see you soon.
Enjoy. I know, yes.
Here
I
or
hope-
there.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay, so let's start the networking session. Insightful event, great. Yeah, hope you get many fruitful messages. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's start the networking session. Here I have a list, and I will invite you one by one to briefly mention about yourself. You can mention your name, country or nationality, recent education, and if any, occupation. Yeah. So name, country, and recent
And
education.
university maybe?
Yeah, current recent education, probably institution.
And university as well, right?
Yeah, education or university, and occupation, if any. So we'll start from is Farah Izian here? Miss Farah Izian, are you here with us?
I don't think so. Next.
Next, okay. Uli Gusniarti. Is Uli Gusniarti still with us?
Next.
Shafa Afanur. Is Shafa Afanur with us?
Next.
Jimmy Hilda Fauzia. So please open your
I
microphone.
saw Hilda here, I think. Hilda? I think she's already leaving.
Mhm. Okay, or probably I will see from the participants here. Adama,
Yeah.
is your microphone okay now? And you mind to share your brief introduction to us?
Yes. I think the mic has a
Alhamdulillah.
problem, but it's okay now. I'm hearing very well. Laptop has problem, but I'm using the phone as well.
Okay.
So I got you now.
Okay, would you please share or introduce yourself briefly and mention your name, country, recent education, and occupation?
Sorry?
Would you please introduce yourself briefly to us, to the class?
Are you talking to me? I am a senior student in the Brunei Darussalam from Africa, West Africa, from the Gambia. And I'm taking master's degrees in Islamic economics and finance. Yeah, which I'm pursuing now in Brunei Darussalam. So I'm very, very happy and found it very interesting to do this psychology because I'm a teacher as well. I'm an educational. I'm a teacher in my country. So that's why I like this topic, this course, especially because it's about education, and education is my profession. That's what I'm doing in my country as a teacher. So I really, yeah, that's my, yeah.
Okay, thank you for sharing. And I hope to see you next class. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
And here we have Alif Rahmadi. Alif Rahmadi, please open your microphone and introduce yourself briefly.
Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. Today I would like to introduce myself. I am Alif Rahmadi. I am a student of university at East Java, actually in University of Darussalam Gontor. Currently I am a student of postgraduate student of Islamic philosophy and psychology. So this event was great. Thank you. I just want to say for the whole committee and the participant, actually for the moderator, also for the lecturer and the speaker. They have been give us many insightful topics and ideas that relate to children, educational psychology, and its aspect.
Thank you, Ali, for sharing and introduce yourself. Hope to see you soon.
Yeah.
And can we have Aziati? We already hear your voice in Read Aloud activity, yeah? But please introduce yourself. Hello.
Hi, my name is Aziati. I'm from University Malaya, Malaysia. Currently, I'm doing my postgraduate study in early childhood education. Is that all? You can see my baby's feet here. So I'm so sorry about the chaos things here.
No, of course. You're a great parent because you can take care of children while still careers and study together with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you in the next class. And can we have Cut Putri Zakia Maulida? Are you here with us?
I think it's our student, Cut Putri,
Cut
from
Putri.
educational psychology. Okay, next.
Next, okay. Dian Rahmayanti.
From here too. I think we have Dr. Faisal Nisar from Pakistan.
Okay, can we have Dr. Faisal? Dr. Faisal Nisar from Pakistan, are you here with us? And my
Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam.
Yeah, I'm Dr. Faisal from Pakistan. I am a clinical doctor doing my post-graduation in clinical pathology and a student of Postgraduate Medical Institute, Lahore, Pakistan. So it's my pleasure to be here with you all, and really a nice presentation by Professor Myra. And hopefully this program will go successful and brighten our kids' grooming in future, inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you, Dr.
Thank you very much.
Hope to see you.
Jazakallah.
Can we have Alizia?
From here too.
Oh, okay. Lamin Mane, are you here with us? Hello, Lamin Mane.
Hello, Nantika. Hi.
Hi.
Hello. Hi. My
Teng.
name is Teng. Yes, Teng. Dr. Tina. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity given. Actually, we missed out the the deadline to register this event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually a student from University Malaya. Currently doing my postgraduate study with Dr. Foni.
Yes.
Yeah, and my study field is in early childhood education. Yeah, so I found today's section is very interesting and amazing, especially pictures books. I use a lot of pictures books to teach visual arts because my major teaching is on visual arts to young children. So I found it is very useful, and I get a lot of ideas, how to read books with young children. Yeah, thanks a lot for the organizing this event. Thank you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks for participating.
Thank you. So, Dr. Tina, I think I need to leave now. I have some event on. Yeah. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
Yeah. See you again.
See you.
Bye.
Yeah.
See you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Can we have Faisal Abu Bakar?
Yes.
Is Faisal Abu Bakar here and mind to introduce himself? Oh, no microphone, yeah? I guess.
No microphone. Okay, I think it's enough.
Enough for the
You can
introduction.
close the event, today's event.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our lecturing program. And on behalf of the committees, we would like to thank all participants for your participation. See you next Friday. We still have many classes. Next Friday at Designing Token Economy System to Improve Child Behavior by our beloved Dr. Tina Hayati Dahlan. Next Friday, November 5th, 2021 at 1 p.m. the same time, yeah. Please like, comment, and subscribe our channel to keep updated for new videos. And stay safe and stay healthy, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.